Hi everyone, it's Raina. So this video is looking at the full super thunder moon, which is occurring where I live on July 13th at 1:38 p.m. Central Standard Time. I think most people will have it on July 13th, wherever you are in the world, but I could be wrong about that. Yeah, I'm probably wrong because there are some places that are like 16 hours ahead of me. So it might be on the 14th for some of you. Now, I looked at almanac.com for the name of the moon in July, and these are Native American names from North America, but I heard that there are also sometimes in Europe they named moons too, but these seem to be Native American tribes, and so there are other names besides the thunder moon, month of the ripe corn moon, raspberry moon. I was really tempted. I don't know if I'm going to put that in my title just because it's more poetic. Buck moon is a big one because that's when the deer they get their antlers full blown. And I actually live in an area where deer are not uncommon, not every day, but now they're starting to come out more. And it's not that I'm afraid of them, but I'm very careful when I see a buck with antlers because they could be looking to mate and things like that, and they're still very young. They might be very, I don't know, feisty. So anyway, this is a supermoon. This is going to be the biggest supermoon of the year, so it's closest to the Earth, and so it's supposed to be, because it's bigger, it's supposed to have more power. Another thing too about this is that it's the brightest. And I think that's the thing when we look at the moon that we are taken with, is the brightness of the moon. The how big it is too, but how bright it is. And the strawberry moon, which was last month, was also a supermoon. I don't think I actually saw it. I don't know if we had a lot of clouds or what, but I think I was looking for it. All right, so from what I can see here, there are some challenging aspects to Pluto here, and there's going to be a conjunction with this full moon and Pluto. So I wanted to give people an idea of what Pluto represents. I found this site that caught my eye because of one of the phrases about Pluto that it used. It's called liveabout or liveabout.com. And they said, I will just read it verbatim at the beginning. Pluto is the great revealer, but often there's a dark night before the rebirth. Pluto brings to mind purging, exorcising, and releasing buried power or core truths. It's the planet of creative destruction, and transits can feel like extended ordeals. And this is, I love that phrase, creative destruction, because this is exactly why I would never say, okay, Pluto is a malefic planet. This is, bad news, because it has both sides to it and both are necessary. You need that purging, which is not comfortable, which is very messy, but in order to get to the cleansing and the releasing. And one of the phrases that came to mind when I was reading this was when they said releasing buried power or core truths, was that saying, and I think that's a Native American saying as well, or maybe, yeah, Mexican indigenous, I don't know. they they thought they buried us. They didn't realize we were seeds. And that is, I love that. As we stand right now, as I stand, because I'm recording this on the 8th of July. So this full moon is 5 days away. And last night, I heard the terrible news that the former Prime Minister of Japan was assassinated. And that same day, I think it was the same day, Boris Johnson stepped down in England. Whatever is going on, whether we're talking about murder, which Pluto is associated with death, or some kind of power play where somebody steps down to maybe give the illusion that things are changing. They reshuffle the decks, the chairs on the deck of the Titanic. Whatever's going on, there's a core truth that is going to emerge. We don't know when. And I'm going to resist temptation to be clickbaity. I might be a little bit, I don't know, but I try not to be, because we don't know. Yes, it could point to that. We might be getting to, things might be starting to heat up. At this time, even before this full moon, we're seeing major changes in world government. And this is the tip of the iceberg. Pluto deals with creative destruction. Capricorn, the sign that Pluto is transiting in, is about governments, structures. In the Tarot, the Judgment card is connected to Pluto. The chicken's coming home to roost. Cause and effect. Karma. Karma is a female dog. And they mention here how Pluto is the ruler of Scorpio, and Scorpio, deals in death and rebirth. One of the things that didn't escape me was that the former Prime Minister of Japan, his last name is spelled Abe, but it's pronounced Abe. In English, we would say Abe. Honest Abe. What happened to Honest Abe? He was assassinated. People oftentimes get assassinated for telling the truth. When we think of Abraham Lincoln, we think of slavery. And right now, we're on the precipice of being freed from human slavery. And some people may take offense with me calling what is happening to us slavery. But it is a form of slavery. We might not have physical chains, but we have been controlled by the hidden hand for many, many eons. And there's an illusion of freedom. And we are sovereign beings, so it's not 100% one way, 100% the other way. But the point is that when power is slipping from somebody's hands, that's when they're the most dangerous. And that's when things can become incredibly unpredictable, as well as emotionally intense. So, it goes without saying that this will very likely be an incredibly emotionally intense full moon with the conjunction between the moon and Pluto. However, it's in the sign of Capricorn, so it might surprise you, because you might be like, why am I feeling things so deeply when this is happening in an earth sign? in a very like kind of dry, cold earth sign like Capricorn. But it can still possibly be very affecting to people. Look to see where it is in your chart, and you will see, how it can affect you in particular. The sun is opposing this Pluto at this time. Sun is in Cancer. Well, of course, at any full moon, the sun and moon are in opposition, so it stands to reason that the sun would be opposing Pluto if the sun is in conjunction with Pluto. And the sun is the light we came here to shine. Pluto wants to dominate that. It wants to be the dictator of, and maybe even try to keep your light from shining. And that light is individuality. And you're not having it. More and more people are saying F you to people who are trying to tell them things, a lot of times that feel like lies, and they're not willing to listen to it. One thing that's interesting is that when I thought of lies, I thought of Neptune, but there's some nice angles. The sun trines Neptune, the moon sextiles Neptune, and Mercury trines Neptune. So what I take from this is that the higher truths will win out. A lot of times people are dependent on what they hear, but it's from the mundane perspective. You could hear good news that is of the mundane perspective. It's not going to truly change your life or elevate you. And yet, if you can tap into the eternal truths that never change depending on what is happening in the world, then you are sitting pretty, because that's the ultimate definition of equanimity, where nothing can really touch you at a fundamental level. So the sun and the moon, both in friendly aspect to Neptune, can be loving kindness to others, but also to yourself. Having compassion, because some people are acting out in ways that may feel, people that personally, even now, even before this is happening, people may be acting out, and it's upsetting to you because they're creating a lot of drama, or they're just creating a lot of discord. And you may be trying to keep on a higher vibration, and you feel like somebody's dragging you down into their lower vibration. But part of the empathic response is understanding that they're suffering and feeling actual compassion for that. And that can soften your own heart. If you're feeling impatient about somebody else's negative reactions to what is going on around them. And people will give you the same generosity. They will reward you with that. One thing to watch out for, I think, well, there are a few things. First of all, anytime we have a full moon, we can feel that heightened emotional response. The supermoon, like I said, and it's in a conjunction with Pluto, it can be that much more intense. Now, sometimes my feeling is when people lose it emotionally, for instance, it's a cathartic event where they have been holding on to a lot of anxiety and sadness, what have you, anger, and they just let it out. And it can be very purging, of course, talking about Pluto, that's part of this. But the thing is that there's an opposition between the moon and Mercury. So sometimes people will use other people. Oppositions are about your relationships with other people and how you may project onto them. And sometimes this is like an unconscious behavioral pattern that happens quite a bit, where the person uses another person as their dumping ground, because they kind of like take offense to something that somebody else says, and then they can dump all their anger on that person, when in fact that person wasn't the true source of much of their anger, but they used a particular person to dump on, to purge themselves of it. So be aware of anyone trying to do this, because we have that opposition between the moon and Mercury. Mercury is communication, and it's also your thought patterns. The moon is your emotional nature. Now, that could be completely nutso, completely reactive and subjective. And it is really like illogical. That's why it's forming an opposition to Mercury, which is kind of more the rational mind, objective mind, right? So, in your conversations with other people, be on the lookout for any time that you're engaging in projection, or kind of even trollish behavior where you're trying to instigate something so that you can purge your emotional state. Or that somebody's trying to do that to you. Don't take the bait, I would say, just in general, with all of these transits, because somebody may be trying to kind of stoke things. There's also, with Mercury, there's an opposition between Mercury and Pluto. So I feel like that can be disinformation. Even though it's not connected specifically, there's actually a trine from Mercury to Neptune. But from what I understand, even positive or cooperative angles to Neptune can still, I wouldn't say taint, but, somehow influence the same way as the negative, because Neptune is so bewitching and on the negative side deceptive, that it can cast illusion over it, even with the positive angles. So that's happening, but then there's this opposition between Mercury and Pluto represents the power structure that wants to maintain there. So with Mercury, what I have noticed is that they are saying the exact opposites, an inverted, there's something called the inverted matrix, but just this in general, talking about how everything is the opposite. If someone is accusing another group of something that they're doing, that they're actually doing, that's one of the biggest mind games you could ever engage in. It's like gaslighting on steroids. So, yeah, especially with gaslighting, because Pluto can be very, very insightful but in a conniving kind of way, manipulative way, on how to get inside the head of someone. And also, because it is one of the rulers of Scorpio is a water sign, so the emotions, engaging the emotions, but we're talking about mind games with the opposition from Mercury. So we have to stand our ground emotionally. And I actually love that we have a conjunction between the moon and Pluto, because it's like staring right into the abyss with a gaze that is completely unwavering. I have the moon in conjunction with Pluto. It's kind of like having the moon in Scorpio. So that is this influence is similar to that. This full moon is like actually having the moon in Scorpio. And so the phrase that came into my mind is separating the men from the boys. That might be a little bit of an antiquated phrase. I'm sure some feminists would say the women from the girls. But yeah, it's something to be very, very mindful of, because you control you. You can't control anything else around you. And if you can build up this positive force field around yourself, I'm not saying through any kind of, like, even putting yourself in a protective bubble or anything. I'm talking about just by the power of your intention, that you say that I am a sovereign being. I have my own power, my personal power, and I own that power, and I feel righteous in that power. I'm not trying to control others. I'm only trying to stand my ground. That could be a great affirmation. Anything more light and fluffy here? I think one thing I'd like to see here are positive aspects from Sun, Moon, and Mercury to Uranus. Uranus is the liberator and also very intuitive. So, for instance, to have that conjunction between the moon and Pluto, and at the same time, a trine between the moon and Uranus, means that we are emotionally free and that we want to be. One of the things that I found out during the shutdown is how many people were happy in their slavery, actually welcomed it, actually were cheery about it. I'm not going to go into details about that, but I really feel strongly about that, and it shocked me that people could take to tyranny so easily. I know I sound strident. You're going to have to forgive me. I'm a Sagittarian, but I really feel that we have to buy a clue and figure out what's going on here, because it's heating up, baby. This is heating up. This is not for the weak-minded. What is going on here? I woke up this morning and I was like, why is this prime minister's death, and he wasn't even the current prime minister, but why is his death affecting me so much? I mean, I'm not Japanese, I don't live in Japan, but there was something about him that seemed like a very good person. And because of the kind of leaders that we have, sometimes you get a vibe that somebody's a real deal, and he seemed like the real deal. And those are the dangerous ones, because the ones that are working for the dark forces, they are going to be protected at all costs. The genuine people who really want to do good things for the world, those are the enemies of the state, because they are not going to do the bidding of the dark ones. So the dark ones, Pluto can definitely talk about that. And this is a spiritual battle. In case I sound melodramatic, this is not me being melodramatic. This is the truth. And so I'm glad that more people are going to be happy with or welcoming their liberation. And it might come, Uranus is a very erratic planet, so it can come at a moment's notice for you. I'm not saying it has to be on this particular date, but because we have Uranus in Taurus, and that's going to also form a conjunction with Mars at some point. I think that's more in August, maybe towards the end of July. Let me see here. Yeah, towards the end of July. On the 31st of July, Mars is going to be at 17 degrees of Taurus, and Uranus is going to be at 18, so it's right there. Okay, now this can give a sense of urgency of, I have to break free, I have to break free, I can't do this any longer. And and people who are not, like, I have Taurus rising, some of you may have, a lot of fixed energy, and you're not going to budge, you're not going to just change on a dime. But there are some people who are highly susceptible to whatever the influences are around them, and they are going to, feel like, I have to do something. And this can also involve activism, getting out in the street, doing stuff like that. And I'm not against that per se, but people have to be careful about being incited into the action, because Mars in and of itself is very rash. And this is like gasoline to the fire when Uranus is engaged here, because it's like revolutionary. And who doesn't love a good revolution? Well, maybe there are some, like I said, who prefer their comfortable slavery. But this will start to heat up at the end of the month. But this can be the first salvo at this full moon, where we're really seeing it play out. We're seeing those things revealed. They're already being revealed. This is not something that is just a one-day event. This is the continuous purging action, but it seems like it's kind of dribs and drabs. This, full moons can be the great reveal. I think I said that before, and I don't know if it panned out, and that's why I was reluctant to talk about it, but it could be. And the last thing I wanted to mention is the Mars square Pluto angle. Now, Mars is actually in an early degree of Taurus at this time, 5 degrees, and Pluto is in Capricorn, so they're both in Earth signs, but at 27 degrees. Okay, so, and Pluto is retrograde at this time. Now, Mars, so this is an example for those of you who might be confused about that and say, I thought that Earth signs formed a trine. Well, they have to be within orb. They have to be within a certain degree span. And you have an early degree of one, late degree of another. So basically what this means is they're looking at the Mars from the Aries perspective, like it's close enough to Aries that it would square off to Capricorn, like a late degree of Aries. So I think the fact that they're both in Earth signs is a little bit better, because that can be more grounded and less reactionary. But, that might be grasping at straws a little bit. So Mars and Pluto, when I see this in a personal chart, I almost can guarantee that that person has been abused in their past. Both of these planets can connect with violence and even death, especially Pluto's. Death is associated with that. So I don't like to put things out like that in the universe, but suffice it to say, it's a very dangerous angle for the collective. But I've already said that. It doesn't even matter. It's dangerous in multiple ways, what's going on. So, definitely be careful, but at the same time, don't allow others to manipulate you with fear, because that's exactly what they're trying to do, even as they are acting out because of their own fear. So it's like a twofer in a sense. And the fact that that Mars is in a fixed sign, is in Taurus, that can be a little bit tricky too, because Mars is so volatile, and Mars is the god of war, and Taurus is so stubborn. So one of the things when somebody is stubborn, they may be, another word for stubbornness is willfulness. And, when you think about what the word will means, and Mars is about the will too, it's like the person's own personal desire is just completely overtaking them. And they want what they want when they want it. That's what this square can be about, or just Mars and Taurus. And the obstinacy, the blind refusal to take another person's needs into consideration, that can be problematic as well. Let's see. All right, I'm trying to see if there's anything else I want to talk about. Sun, Moon, and Mercury are all squaring Chiron. Okay, so personally, these are personal planets. For yourself, do not allow personal pain that might get triggered to affect how you act. That's acting in subjectivity, or to overshadow everything else that's going on. Because liberation is very messy. And for people who had a strong need for everything to be nice and neat and predictable, and this is happening around them, it can be traumatizing, especially if they have gone through trauma in their past that has been very chaotic. Sometimes people who go through a lot of chaos, where there was a lot of unpredictable negative things that happen to them, they grow up to micromanage their lives because they're trying to prepare themselves for any calamity that exists, but they actually prepare so much that they lose the joy of life by not being able to be spontaneous and in the moment. That's too frightening for some people. And yet, the outer world can get so chaotic that you can't plan anymore, that you just have to accept what is. Well, that can be a gift for those types of people because it can force them to go with the flow because they don't have another choice. They don't have any other choice. But at the same time, it can trigger such people because of their past pain. So anything that triggers you, see it as the areas that you need to be healed. Don't suppress it or spiritually bypass it and act like it's no big deal. Really honor it, see it, and therefore be able to integrate it at some point. Maybe not now, because things may be quite up in the air. But, not coming from a fear-based perspective as much as possible is very good. Okay, I think I'm going to leave it there. I hope that I hope that I explained it well enough for you to understand, and not to be afraid, but just to be aware. Because actually, people who don't hear about what is going on, who are kind of really what we call the normies, the people who are really living in the world and have no idea and don't even care. They don't pay attention to deeper things that are going on. Those people are going to need those of us who are on the ascension path, or whatever you want to call it, because they are going to be confused. Even if it's not to the nth degree in July, I feel like there's still going to be things that come up that are going to cause them to question some of their choices or belief systems. And they will be very confused because they thought they had it all figured out. And some of us who know or have anticipated all of this that is happening, maybe not exactly how it's happening, but in some way, we can help them to not be afraid. But we have to have our stuff together. Okay, that's what I have for you. I hope that you resonated with this. If you would like a private reading, the link is below. Take care. Bye.